boxing, beats and rhymes. No one can do it better.
One of the reasons why you guys parted ways is because you wanted your career to go to a certain pace that they didn't feel you were ready for. I want you to address that first.
Right now, I want to prove myself. They gave me an option. They was giving us options that we didn't like. We wanted to fight John Ryder.
Canelo about to get that fight.
Yeah, and we wanted that fight with him, and his team wanted it, I wanted it. I'm out here I want to prove myself that I'm the best at 168, and obviously it's just taking that step where I feel like I'm ready for that step up, to get those big fights.
I believe Edgar had 16 first-round knockouts in his first 16 fights on Top Rank. Now, he said he wanted harder fights, and they wouldn't oblige him. But the way I remember it is when they put him in with the likes of Nicholson, Koceras, Steve Rolls, and Gulo, he was struggling hard. He was struggling. He didn't score a knockout in his last 4 fights at Top Rank. Not even a knockdown. I remember Dante's Boxing Nation asking, I wonder what opponents he was offered by Top Rank, because he didn't disclose what opponents they offered him. Perhaps they wanted him to go down a level because he just wasn't looking like a world beater after them first 16 knockouts. I think more than likely he was going to get a similar level of opponent as Steve Rolls, Koceras, Nicholson, and Gulo for peanuts, and he realized it could be another struggle. And then Eddie Hearn signed him up 2023. The Jason Quigley fight was his first fight. He got a couple of knockdowns, a unanimous decision, and he stopped Padre McCrory before losing to Canelo Alvarez. Oscar De La Hoya, he was courting Berlanga. There was a few photos where they were seen together, but he couldn't deliver Berlanga that Canelo fight, could he? Canelo hates Oscar. Eddie Hearn's got a good relationship with Keith Connolly, and he kept talking about Berlanga and Canelo would be a big fight. Deal done. According to Eddie Hearn, Berlanga made $12 million in 3 fights at Matchroom. The Quigley fight, they're saying here between 500 and 700,000 for the Quigley fight. That's a lot of money. Meaning he cleared a whole lot of money for the Canelo fight. It's a great deal. And look, if he wants to go, he should go. But as for him putting Matchroom out there like they've done him a bad service is the most ludicrous thing I've heard. He hasn't really beat no one of note. Look at the money he's made. But now he's talking about jumping ship from Matchroom because Eddie wouldn't pay out for a William Skull fight, which is the last fight in his contract. So Matchroom pay out for that fight, have no options on Berlanga. It's just bad business for the promoter. And according to Eddie, the figures didn't add up to make that fight for how much Skull wanted or likely what Berlanga wanted. How did he really believe that he was in the running to get a William Skull fight when Canelo washed him? Who was he really beat to get 2 world title shots on the bounce? Nobody. He's blamed Top Rank for the direction of his career early, and now he's blaming Matchroom. It's bullcrap. You just need to take the fights and win. But most pundits, they see the limitations. I saw them early when he was knocking people out in a round. I saw him early. Not to say he's a bad fighter, but he was nowhere near as good as some people were hyping him up. Nowhere near. That's what I always believed. But he's only 27. Let the promoters do their job. Edgar needs to beat a live body.
I want to see him fight Caleb Plant. I think it's a great fight. I think both those guys are full of spirit. I really like Caleb Plant. I don't really know him, but I like his spirit.
The Caleb Plant fight is the fight Eddie Hearn can make. I believe Eddie Hearn can make it. I believe Caleb would take it. Is Edgar trying to duck the Caleb Plant fight? Because it will be a difficult fight. He'll be paid well, but the risk reward might not be something he wants to entertain. If he's real about being a serious fighter, he needs to let Eddie do his job and make the Plant fight. I mean, he's in America, right? Where are you going to go? You're going to sign with the PBC to do what? Fight on PBC YouTube or Twitter? There's people across the pond saying, yeah, he could go to the PBC. What people are going that way towards the PBC right now? Who's the last fighter they signed? Come on now. There's good fights out there for Edgar Berlanga. Plant is one. Steve Nelson is a good one. Someone like Callum Simpson from the UK. There's lots of good fights at 168. Who did Blue Collar say? Kevin Sarjo, that's another good fight. The fights are out there.
Boxing, beats and rhymes. No one can do it better.
Super League details. 100 to 150 fighters. 8 weight classes, flyweight to heavy. will receive a signing-on fee of $5,000, and they will be contracted to the new boxing league for a minimum of 2 years. The TKO Super League, however, isn't expected to begin until 2026. The fighters will have the opportunity to participate in bouts every 5 months during the term commencing with the first bout, and shall make good faith efforts to offer boxers the opportunity to participate in 4 bouts during the first year. Now, what is a good faith effort to offer boxers the opportunity to participate in 4 bouts during the year? Well, first of all, the fighter will have to be fit enough and ready to take the 4 fights if they're available. We'll need details to see what TKO's liability is if they cannot deliver the 4 fights. 20 grand for a 10-round bout by an unranked fighter. 50 grand when ranked by the company at number 5 to 10. 125,000 when ranked by the company at number 3 to 4. 375,000 when challenging for the company championship. 750 grand when defending the company championship. So there's basically a cap on what you can make for the year. No sanctioning bodies allowed. They're not working with the sanctioning bodies. Now, they're going to sign 150 fighters. Will they appoint some fighters as champions, or will 1 and 2 fight for the title? More details. More details. I know what to expect in the comment section already. It's too early, guys. It's too early. It's too early. Like, after you do your 2 years, you can either bounce. But what happens after that if you want to stay? Do you get to renegotiate? Let's say if you didn't lose during your 2 years. You won all 4 fights first year, and how many in the second year? Now, how does the ranking system work? Do you sign 150 fighters and they all start at the same level, needing to win their first fight to get into the next heat? So if the first 75 win, they separate themselves from the 75 that lost. Then that will go to 30 plus, to 15, to 7, 8, to 4, to 2, to a winner. That could mean it would take maybe a few years to unveil a champion. But will they be signing fighters at different levels? Pro boxing, when you're dealing with people like Oscar De La Hoya, Anthony Joshua, Sugar Ray Leonard, their signing fees are different from all the other fighters. So why would someone, let's say AJ, Oscar, Sugar Ray Leonard star potential, sign a 5 grand signing on fee like someone else who doesn't have that same potential to make money? They're not going to go for the blue chip prospects like that. They're going to get undefeated prospects, good ones like Callum Walsh, some with a few L's on their record perhaps, but good fighters, good prospects, good fringe contenders, etc. Maybe some once world-class fighters, just a little bit past their best. Some good journeymen, but good journeymen. They need a mixture. What about ticket sales to the venue? If I can sell, let's say, an inflated figure just to really make the point. If I can sell 3,000 tickets out of a 5,000-seater capacity, and you can't sell ish to flies, why do you get the same purse as me? Why do we sign on for the same fee? Is Dana not planning to do pay-per-view with these fights? If the fights go to pay-per-view and they start doing huge numbers on pay-per-view, and you've got a flat fee of $750 at the most, or maybe 300 grand or whatever it is, people are going to be raising eyebrows and saying you're juicing the fighters while the shareholders milk the profits. So before anyone says, "Beat, you love Dana," I just go through the points one by one as the information has came out. Like I said, when the information comes out, I'll tackle the information.
Me not deal with no changaram, bangaram business.
What's to stop a fighter who does really well after 2 years just leaving and fight for sanctioning belts and being able to earn 4, 5, 6, 7, 10 times the amount, possibly? It's not like they're leaving UFC and then their options are minimal in comparison to, although someone did tell me that there is an MMA franchise who paid more than UFC, but I wouldn't know. But yeah, like, some fighters might just use it as a springboard, do their 2 years, then they can fight for sanctioning belts. So even if they don't fight for sanctioning belts, they can start negotiating their own purses for fights with no cap. It could be a springboard for some fighters to promote themselves and go on to do their own thing. Dana didn't have to worry about that with UFC. When the disenfranchised MMA fighters have left UFC to make big money, They've had to go into boxing rings to make that money. But I'm talking here, boxers staying in boxing. Life after Super League. They can earn whatever they're able to generate. No cap. The old school boxing promoters might be just lurking outside the gate, waiting for these 2-year contracts to finish. Snap them up. Snap them up. And what you have to realize, people pay lip service to things. 1 champion per weight class. Back to traditional 8 weight classes. People say things. At the end of the day, you're going to be competing with boxing, which has 8 more weight classes worth of fights to offer. And then another 8 and a lot more championship fights as well, because there's 8 champions per weight class. Champion, interim champion, and people are used to that now. At this moment, there's a demand for boxing, and the 4 sanctioning belts in the 17-18 weight classes supply that demand. This is modern day boxing. You know, the Super League champion, let's say they establish some good champions. You get called out by a sanctioning body champion, you can't do anything. Why is that? Because you're bitched up behind your 2-year contract. Dana's not working with the other sanctioning bodies, so you have to wait until you're out of contract before you can do anything. With the Muhammad Ali Act, no promoter is allowed to stop 2 fighters who want to fight. If the fight can be made in good faith, it's not an unreasonable matchup to make, the promoter and the network could be done for constraint of trade or whatever the suitable violation would be. Facts. Ask Leon Muhammad. I couldn't find a receipt, but it seems that Turkey and Dana are not too keen on the Muhammad Ali Act. It could work if there's a little more flexibility. Most fighters are not making 20 grand for the year in purses. That's the facts. And 20 grand is not a lot of money to live on. But when we say 4 fights, they're going to be tough fights because they're not going to be signing bums. They might not be elite prospects, but they're not bums. These are going to be fit, strong, capable fighters. So you're going to earn that 80 grand that year. And fighters don't fight as frequently as they did. But now you're expecting fighters to take on 4 fighters at the same level as them, or maybe higher, for the year. Now Tom Loeffler is bringing Callum Walsh to the Super League, from what I've heard. He's 13-0, 11 inside the distance. His last fight was in Madison Square Garden. The card was promoted by Tom Loeffler. Dana White was there. Now you might ask yourself, what's in it for Callum Walsh? Well, he's 13-0, and depending on how it's structured, he could earn 80 grand in 2026. And in 2027, maybe a couple of million. There are a lot of questions to answer. I know what to expect in the comment section, but the bottom line is, it's going to benefit some fighters. But for others, they're going to say, no, I'll pass. And for some, they're going to go into it and regret it. But that's life. Make sure you bring your lawyer to the party to look over the fine print details. Like Usyk, he said he would get involved in the Super League potentially. He's only got 2 fights left, but he's saying he would entertain it. But at $750k a fight, they're not looking for the elites. They can't get a Terence Crawford there. They can't get a Usyk there. They probably can't get a top 10 pound for pound fighter in that league with that wage structure. That don't mean it can't be a success. If they can get hungry fighters who want to prove themselves and it's competitive, it can be a success. It doesn't have to be elite fighters in the league. And I guess one of the objectives would be to produce these elite stars through the league. I'm always saying wait for details, wait for details. The boxing fans don't want to wait for details. They don't want Dana anywhere near boxing. They don't want him nowhere near boxing. And Turkey has to do something in terms of PR for Dana's image in the boxing world. They're going to have to do something. He's probably disliked more than Eddie Hearn in America, from what I'm seeing. That could be the biggest stumbling block right now in how far this Super League goes. I didn't realize he was hated that bad.
Boxing beats and rhymes. No one can do it better.
I heard Pat Barrett talking about he let ZELFA, his nephew, go because he might need a fresh start because he's not listening to him no more. He's been training him for near on 11 years since his pro debut. And now ZELFA's confirmed he's going to be trained by Joe Gallagher. He said he wasn't expecting this, but sometimes you need a change after being with one trainer for so long. Now I've got my reservations about going with Joe Gallagher at this point in Joe's life. He has a serious bout of cancer. I question how much can he focus on the fighters. I'm guessing he needs a distraction. But you've also got the fighters who are thinking, oh, my coach has got cancer. They're supposed to be focused on themselves. They're not going into daycare. They're going into a boxing ring. The full focus needs to be on them. But when you're getting trained by your dad and your uncle, the misled loyalty can be a big issue where, yeah, you might need to find a new trainer, start again, start afresh, but because of the family ties, you're always trying to make it work. Even though in the back of both of your minds, you're probably thinking, this ain't really working, is it? ZELFA said, big thank you to his uncle/trainer at Black Flash Promotions for everything he's done and taught me for his whole career. Now he can have an uncle instead of a trainer. Question now is, at 31, is it a little too late to teach an old dog new tricks and perhaps win a world title? He came so close against Rakhimov. If he had finished off Rakhimov when he had him down and hurt, they probably wouldn't be talking about a split now. But I think it all came to a conclusion when last month he was soundly outpointed by Jazza Dickens. Soundly. And ZELFA looked like he had no strategy, no tactic to speak of at all. Whatever Pat was telling him in the corner, he wasn't able to implement in the ring. And to be honest, I was shocked that Jazza beat ZELFA. I was shocked.
Boxing beats and rhymes. No one can do it better.
All boxers need to win their fights, but more so the likes of Jack Catterall. The moment you stop winning with a star like Jack's, his diehards might turn up to watch him fight, but the mutual observer is not going to pay to watch Jack Catterall. They're probably not going to pay. After losing to Arnold Barboza in his backyard, surely just down the road from Manchester, he's finally surfaced and said, big fights, Oli. I respect at George Kambosos. He's a proper warrior. Would love to fight him. Eddie Hearn said Jack Catterall wants to return in a big fight and has named George Kambosos amongst a list of potential opponents. What's in it for George? Stylistically, George will not be able to affect Catterall's distance control like Barboza did. And if Kambosos plays counterpunch with Jack Catterall, Catterall will probably win, and it'll be a stinker. Isn't George fighting on Saturday to perhaps get the Richardson-Hitchens fight for the title?
Boxing beats and rhymes. No one can do it better.
I want to big up Everything Boxing on Twitter. Go seek them out. Keep you updated and current. Now, when I was breaking down Amo Williams' Saturday gone against Patrice Volney in a very good fight, I was saying that he's actually not far off a world title because the middleweight division just isn't what it used to be. It hasn't been for years. It's the strangest thing. It's weird looking at the middleweight division and it's not really strong. It's really weird. When I think about the champions, Hagler, McCallum, Nigel Benn, Eubank only had a couple of championship fights at 160. Sumbu Kalambe, Michael Nunn, Roy Jones, Hopkins, Tony. To seeing it now, Tony Zell, Harry Greb, Sugar Ray Robinson. You can keep going and going and going. Great middleweights. Dick Tiger, Carlos Monzon. The best middleweights in recent years. You got Triple G, Canelo, and now we got Danny Garcia challenging for world titles. So yeah, I said Austin Amo Williams is not far off getting a crack at a title. And this is just what, 9 months on from when he was TKO'd by Hamza Shiraz at Riyadh season. Well, 2 wins later, he finds himself in a final eliminator for the IBF 160-pound title, which JHANIBEK Alam Kunalai occupies. He takes on Etinoza Oliha, who's 21-0, no defeats, no draws, 9 inside the distance, 26 years of age. He's from Italy. I don't recognize the names he's beaten. All of his fights have been in Italy and Germany, but the IBF have ordered a final eliminator. So I'm going to assume Matchroom are going to look to get that on the zone, possibly in Amo's backyard, give him all the advantages they can. I'm going to have to do a scouting report on Oliha, because I know nothing about him, but if Austin beats him, he'll have it all to do to beat JHANIBEK. But one fight at a time, I guess.
Boxing beats and rhymes. No one can do it better. boxing, beats and rhymes. No one can do it better.